We are live. Welcome to Sales Team Rescue, episode number 92. I'm your host, Jeremy DeMerchant, and I am here with another special guest. President and CEO of Lofholm International, Eric has been teaching sales for over 20 years. He is the author of 15 books on sales and success, including his bestseller, The System. Eric is a master sales trainer who has helped over 10,000 students make more sales and generate nearly 500 million, yes, I said million, in revenue. And that's just in the last 2 decades. Eric, thank you so much for being on Sales Team Rescue.
Jeremy, I'm excited to be here. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, no, the pleasure's all mine. So I want to dive in and share a little bit more about your background. Tell us a little bit more about where you come from, and how on earth you became this rock star sales trainer.
Yeah, I actually started off as a sales failure. My first year in sales, I was the bottom producer on my team. I missed quota 2 months in a row. The quota was 10,000 in gross sales and was written up and told I had one more month to hit my quota or I was out. And I started looking for answers, and I met my mentor, a gentleman named Dr. Donald Moyne, who's a brilliant sales trainer. Hit the quota the next month, and then the following month I did 5 times quota and became the top producer. How I became a trainer is I love teaching. And so once I had the skills of sales, it was just natural for me to teach my coworkers. So I did that for a while. And then I went and worked for Tony Robbins. I worked for Tony for 3 years. And then in 1999, started my current company, Lofholm International. And we are focused on helping people make more sales all over the world.
I love it. It's so interesting to hear the different ways that people have come into sales. Some people just seem to have a natural skill, but you had to have the struggle first. And not only does it make for a better story, I feel like it makes for a better coach, like a better trainer, because you understand where people are starting at versus some people who just kind of had it, you know?
Yeah, it's really true. You know, in Alcoholics Anonymous, in that program, somebody who has a drinking problem that's, overcome it, at least to the point where they're mentoring other people, they have compassion and understanding for other people that are going through that circumstance. And me struggling for an entire year, I get it. And I know what made me successful. And with my teaching gifts, I can easily explain it to people in a way that they understand it. So it's been a huge asset for me to coach and mentor others.
That's awesome. So tell me a little bit more about continuous sales improvement. So you've got a book we're going to talk about in a minute. You've got programs. This seems to have become the standard or the theme of everything that you're doing right now. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So I just stepped back and thought about what really has allowed me to get to an elite level of doing sales and teaching sales. And when I really thought about it, I said, it's my desire to want to get better. And I've had that desire for, several decades now. And I thought, well, if anybody models that, instead of going through a week or 2 week training at a new company and, okay, I got trained, now I'm just going to go sell, that continuous sales improvement. And what I teach is work on your skills for 15 minutes to an hour or more per week. Never stop working on your skills. Work on sales skills, personal development, product knowledge, and technology as it relates to increasing sales. And that's a blueprint for anybody that wants to get better. And I love teaching out to individuals and then also to companies. The company installs that mindset with their sales team. So it's not just a couple of people on the team that are striving to get better. It's like, no, we have a culture where everybody is working on getting better. I found that that's been, instrumental in my own success.
That's awesome. Somebody said to me the other day, and I was talking to them about hiring and accountability for new sales reps. And they said accountability is really a part of culture. And I went, oh, and it was a huge light bulb for me, because I was thinking accountability is like check-ins and follow through, and those might be part of it, but the culture piece, it really defines everything about your standards as it comes to sales performance or employee performance in general. So I love that you talk about that continuous improvement and that weekly goal to make sure you're improving. Because we've mentioned this before we went live. If you're learning sales or doing sales in a silo, you're not going to really grow nearly to what you could. So I think that's
and you make a great point about culture, and thinking about what is the culture for your weekly sales meeting. For any of you that are sales leaders, watching this or listening to this, do you have a weekly sales meeting? Number one. Number two, if you have one, what is the culture? And is it just talking about product? Are you actually doing personal development in that meeting? Are you doing training? Are you, recognizing people? And then do you have a culture of ongoing improvement? I think a lot of companies, they do the training that first week or two. And it's like, okay, check mark the box. Okay, we did the training thing. And, I have made that continuous sales improvement a part of my own personal culture. And it's made a huge difference. I'm a big basketball fan, and Steph Curry, as of this recording, is in a tremendous stretch in his career with 3-point shooting and points and so forth. And he's an example of an athlete who's lived that mindset. Tom Brady lived that mindset. And as sales professionals and as teams, we can embrace that, and it's a winning formula.
That's awesome. I was kind of looking around here. Oh, it's behind me. I've got a little Michael Jordan figurine for that same thing about how do you never stop learning, never stop perfecting, never stop that 10,000 hours or more in Jordan's case. That level of being of the elite, if you will, I think is a decision. Now there's lots behind it as well. It's more than just a decision, but I think it starts with a decision, because people that get to those extreme levels, at some point they needed to decide and needed to commit. And even whether it's, I want to be as good at sales as Jordan was at basketball, or I want to be as, or I just want to be versus status quo, if you want to make that difference, the first commitment is, how do you do that ongoing weekly continuous sales improvement? So I love the language around it. I love the title. I love everything about it. And I want to give you a shout out because, guys, Eric is super modest in my experience with him so far, on his website and on his Facebook page. And he's got some amazing shout outs from legends, living legends, like Les Brown, Michael Gerber, Brian Tracy, talking about the phenomenal work that he does. So I just want to give you a clear shout out here, because you seem like a great guy, but I feel like you're a really modest guy, and you're a total rock star. And so I'm okay. I break all the rules of being an Atlantic Canadian, where we're supposed to say, I'm sorry. And we're supposed to be modest and not brag about ourselves. But I want to brag about you, because what you're doing is phenomenal. Now,
well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. So you work with companies of different sizes. You work with sales teams. You work with small businesses. What are some of the biggest challenges that you see come up with your clients? What are the maybe top 2 or 3?
Yeah, I think one of the things that make a huge difference for me is sales scripting. And I learned that from my mentor, Dr. Moyne. Dr. Moyne wrote his PhD dissertation on what separates sales superstars from average salespeople. And what he observed, if he went to a sales superstar like Ben Feldman, who Dr. Moyne studied, or Joe Girard, Feldman was the #1 life insurance salesman. Girard was #1 car salesman in the world at the time. And if he would ask them, do you use scripts? Oftentimes these sales superstars said no. And then he would watch them sell, and he found they told the same stories. They asked the same probing questions. They handled the objections in the same way. And so he observed that they were using language patterns that were guiding their results. And so Dr. Moyne did all this work around scripting. And so when I went from worst to first in 60 days back in the early 90s, it was in large part due to the improvement in the quality of my words. And so, today I was leading a call for about 50 salespeople, and because they know of my work around scripting, they were wanting to know, well, what should I say here? What should I say there? I've been working on scripts now for over 20 years. I wrote a book called Sales Scripting Mastery, which is one of the most comprehensive books ever written on the subject of scripting. So as far as an idea that can create a breakthrough, improving the quality of the words of your sales team. And a lot of companies, they have resistance to scripting because they simply don't understand it. So that's one huge opportunity. Another one is I'm a big believer in having vision, and I look out into the future several decades. Most salespeople think 5 years out or less. And so if you have help your sales team look out further into the future, that can make a huge difference. The last idea that I'll share is that most people have holes in their sales game. And so if you can work with your team on, is it, I'm thinking of one salesperson in particular, fear of going after larger accounts. So he just doesn't do it. And so you get him to go after larger accounts, he could double his sales on that one idea. So it's looking at where does my team have holes? And if you're a salesperson, where do you have holes? If you're managing a team of people, where do they have holes? And how can you help them break through those comfort zones?
Yeah, that's huge. And the idea of scripting, and I was one of those people that was resistant to the idea of scripts. I said, I don't use a script. I get a feel for it, and then I just go with it. But you're right, the same story every time. In fact, when I was younger, with my dad does wood carvings and trade shows and things like that, and that's where I learned. I would stand behind the booth when I was like 9 years old and hear my dad tell the same stories over and over again. And then as I grew up, and still even not to this day, because right now there's no trade shows happening, but even till 2019, I would go up to these trade shows, and my dad would want me to come along, and I was telling the same stories he's told for the last 20 years. And it's the same conversation to create this engagement. And it might not be a sales conversation in the traditional sense, but whether it's sharing a story or having something that's clever, once you have something that works, that consistency can't help but create consistent results.
Well, here's the thing. Human beings respond in predictable ways. So years ago when I worked for Tony Robbins, there was a video that I watched of one of my, I'm going to call him a coworker. He used to work for the company. He wasn't with them anymore, named Roger. And so Roger says to this audience of maybe 15 real estate agents, hey, I'm only in Atlanta, Georgia here for a couple more weeks. And if you could help me out with some referrals today, I'd really appreciate it. I have a Tony Robbins audio cassette. I gave all of you a fill in the blank form. And if you could give me 3 or more referrals today of other companies where I could be a guest speaker, I'll reward you with this Tony Robbins audio cassette. And then he continued on with this presentation. Well, at the end, I'm watching what happens, and people are bringing up these orders. They filled out order forms to buy the Tony Robbins tickets, but they also filled out these referral slips. And then he was giving them a cassette, which meant the game was, give me 3 referrals, you get a cassette. So every time he gave a cassette, he got at least 3 referrals. So I immediately knew if I did what Roger did, if I had the fill in the blank form, and if I followed his script, which I had on the video, I would get a similar result. And what I'm going to tell you does not even sound believable, but I used that script again and again and again and again and again, and it produced over 10,000 referrals. It doesn't even sound believable.
That's amazing.
But it was one script used repeatedly, and I just knew it was like clockwork. It was just, I would get referrals every time I did it. And so that's just one example of harnessing the power of scripting. And if you're watching this right now and you're like, resistance to scripting, which many, many people are, it's really about learning what it is that I'm talking about. I got to learn from the master, Dr. Moyne, who's arguably the top script writing expert in the world. He's my mentor. So I've taken his work with his permission, and I go out and teach it to others. And it's been very powerful for those that embrace the power of sales scripting, because it is a proven way to significantly increase closing ratios.
Yeah, I think that's huge, and a lot of people do miss it because they're so resistant to. They're avoiding trying to sound salesy, right? They want to not avoid, or they want to not sound salesy, but yeah, the script is simply just success repeated, right? And I think
they think of a script as canned, rehearsed, robotic. I have to read it. No, you become the script. So you're just present with the prospect. You don't have to read anything. You put the script in your body through practice, just like Steph Curry does with the 3-point shot.
Yeah.
So this isn't about reading a script. This is about becoming the script and having down these talk tracks that produce predictable results. for example, if you do what a millionaire does, you'll get what a millionaire has. If you invest your money where millionaires currently have their money invested, what will you become? And the prospect will say or think the word millionaire. So I'm putting that thought in their mind through the talk track that produces that predictable result. And when you have this level of precision in your presentation, it's so exciting to walk into a presentation knowing you're just going to knock it out of the park because you got this phenomenal script. So when you do this with a sales team, you know, it can be massive in terms of increases in results.
That's phenomenal. So I want to jump to learn a little bit more about your book that you've got coming out later this year. Tell us about the book, and then we'll tell the audience so they can get a little taste.
Yeah, so Continuous Sales Improvement is the book. And what I decided to do was model Apple's digital hub strategy. And so you guys can go Google that and look it up. It's an integrated strategy with what Apple did. So I decided to do an integrated strategy with continuous sales improvement. So it's the book, it's the website, continuoussalesimprovement.com. It's the podcast. It's the Sales Manager podcast. We have a continuous sales improvement for sales managers. It's the Facebook group. It's the YouTube channel. So once you know that, oh, it's continuous sales improvement, you know, oh, that's all these other pieces as well. And it really comes down to a mindset of committing to getting better, like a Steph Curry, like a Tom Brady, but doing it in sales in a way where it's just 15 minutes to an hour a week. I'm not asking for much. And so the book comes out in October, and we're going to be in paperback, Kindle, Audible, and you can actually pick up chapter 1 right now at continuoussalesimprovement.com. If you just go on there, you'll see a little button that says, hey, you can get this chapter 1 for free. That'll put you on my email list, and it'll give you that first chapter to get you off to a great start.
I love it. And we'll make sure we put that link in the comments as well. So whether you're watching live, watching the replay here, or catching the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or other platforms, you will see that link down below. So that's fantastic. Now, Eric, I want to take you into the part of the show that I call the lightning round. And we're going to hit you with 4 pretty direct questions. So I apologize, I didn't prepare you for this, but that's what makes it fun. Nothing too revealing. Well, except maybe one question. We'll see.
All right. Sounds good. I'm up for it.
We're going to dive in. All right. Awesome. So as we know, coffee's for closers. What is your favorite kind of coffee or comparable drink?
I'm a Starbucks guy. I like Grande Pike with cream and 2 pumps of cinnamon dolce. And that's what I get pretty much every day. 1 cup of coffee, occasionally 2.
Awesome. What's the number 1 book or movie you'd recommend to a sales rep or sales leader?
I like a book that's not talked about much. It's kind of hard to find, called Future Diary by Mark Victor Hansen. And it's all about what Earl Nightingale called the strangest secret, which is we become what we think about. You can find that on YouTube, The Strangest Secret, Earl Nightingale, we become what we think about. And it's having a vision for where you want to go in the future, seeing yourself as that top producer. So Future Diary, Mark Victor Hansen.
Nice. I will definitely be looking that up. Now, you've shared one mentor for sure, but my question is, who's someone that you've considered to be a mentor in your life? So you can share the same one or another one.
Yeah, so Dr. Moyne has been my main sales mentor. Jay Abraham has been my main marketing mentor. Tony Robbins on the personal development side, who I mentioned, I worked for Tony for 3 years. Michael Gerber, who you mentioned earlier in our interview, systems guy. He's the one that actually created my book, The System, as far as the idea for it. So Gerber, Moyne, Jay Abraham, and Tony Robbins, I'm blessed to have know all 4 of them personally.
Amazing. Now, the last question of the lightning round, and maybe the most interesting, depending on your answer. What's the strangest thing that you do in your daily routine to stay on your game?
I will regularly think, and I think as a strategy. So my grandfather, when he was alive, he used to pay himself $100 an hour just to think. And so I will take time out of my day when other people are like, you should be selling, you should be working. It's like, I am working. I'm thinking. So I'll block out 15 minutes, half hour, sometimes 2 hours in a single day. And I will use my imagination to come up with ideas to catapult my life and my business forward.
Wow. I'm at a spot right now where I've spent too much time on calls this week, and I actually should be paying myself to think, because that's such a huge piece, right? If we don't have the space to create, like that's what we do, whether we're CEOs or even sales people, right? Like the sales role requires you to come up with creative solutions for people depending on their scenario. And I think having that space to think is so vital for our ability to not only keep ourselves mentally healthy, but to be able to be at our peak level of performance. If we don't have that space, where we're just hitting call after call after call and never breathing, it's really easy to get burnt out.
Well, my concept of continuous sales improvement, which is the book, the podcast, and this and that, right? Mm-hmm. I predict that that's going to go viral. We'll see how it plays out. Mm-hmm. But that was probably a good 50 hours of thought to fully develop that idea. And then I've executed. And so the YouTube channel is up and the podcast is up and all these pieces and the book's coming out in October. So that wasn't just put your head down and grind. That was taking time out to really think about what are the strategic moves that I can make to create leverage in my business. And so it's something that I don't think a lot of people necessarily think about, taking time out of your day to think and use your imagination to create what it is that you want. And I put many, many deals together by just emphasizing thinking time.
Wow. I think, I think that's so vital. So you mentioned the book, and I want to give a shout out to that link again, continuoussalesimprovement.com, to download the first chapter of Eric's book, Continuous Sales Improvement. And I want to bring up one other thing that I noticed on your website, which is this no-cost networking event that you have every month. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I have the Continuous Sales Improvement community, and it's free. You don't have to pay anything to join, and we have all kinds of services that we provide at no charge, including a monthly networking event. So it's the third Thursday of every month from 8 to 9 California time, Pacific time zone, and we do it over Zoom. So if you're looking for meeting new people, if you're looking for leads, if you want to be around success-minded, goal-oriented individuals, I facilitate it. It's a lot of fun. There's no cost for it. You just go to continuoussalesimprovement.com. You register. You can come once, or you can come every single month. And that's just one of our community events that we do. Does not require that you become a client. There's no cost for it. You can invite your friends. So if you're watching this, you're like, hey, I want to be in your energy, Eric, for networking. Come on down and check it out. Just go and register for free.
Phenomenal. Guys, make sure you go check that out. Again, go to continuoussalesimprovement.com for the free chapter of the book, to register for the free networking event. Any way that you can help enhance your energy and momentum around sales is going to benefit you. And as I was saying to Eric before, there's enough need for sales growth. Every single person can get better. And so I want you to maximize all the resources you get on this show. Eric is a total rock star and has killer resources. So I don't want to use the phrase take advantage of it, but it's there, implemented. And then as you get to see even more of what a rock star he is, then maybe there's more opportunities for you there. But definitely check out the free resources. And when the book comes out, I want to make sure that you guys all get it, because I'm going to be getting it, because I want to check it out for sure. So looking forward to that. Eric, before we jump off, tell me, is there anything that you want to leave the audience with?
Well, one is just a message of optimism. You all have the ability to get better, whether it's better at sales or better as a sales leader, better at running your sales meetings, better at delivering your sales presentations. And it's not about where your skills are now, it's what you can become. So some people say, Eric, I'm not good at referrals. Well, maybe that's true now, but you could become good. You could become great. You could potentially even master referrals. Eric, I'm not very good at hiring. Well, you could become good. You could become great. You could potentially master hiring. So it's not where you are today. It's what you can become. It's a mindset of optimism. And I want to acknowledge all of you for being a part of Jeremy's community and participating and listening and watching today's podcast. My hope is that you got some ideas that will benefit you. And if you resonate with my message, come join my community and we can continue the conversation.
Amazing. Well, Eric, it's such a pleasure to have you on here. Guys, if you're watching live, you're catching the replay, you're listening on the podcast, thank you so much for being here. This was episode number 92. Remember, if you want to catch the replay of this and previous episodes, go to salesteamrescue.com. And if you or someone in your organization is ready to sit down and chat about a sales team blueprinting session, that link as well is at salesteamrescue.com. Eric, once again, thanks so much, guys. Be sure to check out Eric's stuff, continuoussalesimprovement.com. Check out the community. Check out the first chapter of the book. Check out everything. This guy's content is gold. And I've got to go brush up on some of his stuff myself. So, Eric, thanks so much. Everybody have a great day. And remember, get uncomfortable, get results. We will see you next week. Wow, I can't speak today. Next week, Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern, right here on Headspace TV. Cheers, guys.